Hey everybody, welcome back to the Breath of Fire 3 walkthrough. Um, the last time, or in the last video there, Ree just was sent off by Bunyan to Mount Gloss, and we had to chop some wood for Mr. Bunyan so that we could I don't know, we just had to do it. We had to do it for him, I guess. I think his intention is a little more clear up ahead, but yeah. So I end up coming back in here later and skipping a lot of this stuff, which I don't know if is such a great idea in hindsight. There's a cloth shield if you run off this ledge. What is it, about right there? And you can get it's a pretty decent item at the beginning of the game anyway, just for defensive purposes. But being that I wanted to try to rush through this portion, I really I really rush through until you get the first master, and then that's when I actually do at least a little leveling here and there. Although I guess actually, come to think about it, this playthrough, I did things even a little differently than I think any of the other times I've ever done this. Normally I level, or I don't. Actually, I should say once I finally get that first master, I do a little bit of leveling, but I did not right away. I actually waited until. There's actually another period here where Teepo and the main character are on their own again. So that is where I actually did a decent amount of leveling with Ree out of the party. I guess yeah, I'll get a little more into it once we actually get there. But here we've got obviously we meet up with Ree here, and Teepo brings up a point here. He says, hey, well, why did Bunyan send you up here? And he said, well, maybe he was thinking about you, and referring to Teepo and the main character. And he says, well, what do you mean? It's a big scary monster. And then Ree says, well, yeah, but I'm strong, and I'm stronger alone. Meaning without Teepo and the hero. And so you kind of don't really understand. That doesn't come into play until quite a bit later on in the story, but eventually you'll understand why Ree is stronger alone. I think Bunyan kind of understands Ree and how he functions, and he was obviously concerned about Teepo and the main character. So anyways, here we're actually getting into the first fight with the new. This one, not too big of a deal. Definitely gonna want to use Ree's Pilfer ability to steal the power food. I wouldn't say it's gonna make or break your game either way. If if not you're able to do that. I would recommend it just because. With this fight, and then there is another fight with the new coming right up, and those are the only places you're going to get that power food for quite some time. So, being that I'm building my character as more of a mage, it's maybe not as big of a deal, but at the same time, you're going to be using the main character's attack command quite a bit. So any bit of strength that you can get is better than not. So I'd recommend at least trying. I think like here you can see I'm defending with Teepo just to make sure that I don't deal too much damage, and trying to blind with the main character. That is one other thing I'd recommend doing this. The new has a really high counterattack or reprisal rate, and blinding it can really reduce the amount of damage that you take. So there you go. Finally landed that. So yeah, so that's what I would recommend. The other thing, I would say if you're trying to do this with the lowest levels possible, like I've done here, I would say stick your characters in the defense formation and kind of leave them there for a while. They're very, very vulnerable at the very beginning of the game in any other formation, really. So you're going to be taking a lot of extra damage, and you just don't have a whole lot of. There's not much leeway, You can. It doesn't take much for your characters to get wiped out at the beginning there. There's the power food, finally. So now it's on to full attack. The cool thing about this first fight, anyway, you don't have to kill any of your characters off. If you're trying to, do what I've done, you don't even need to, because you don't get any experience from this fight. As it does, it just runs away. So, food for that. Again, something that you don't necessarily have to worry too much about. And boy, I got really lucky here. His poison never landed. So he's casting chlorine over and over and over, and it never landed on me. Which is pretty nice, because that can be a it's a pretty big annoyance. Especially at like I said, the very beginning of the game here. You're very limited on healing items and whatnot. And here I just used snooze, and that's actually a lot better than I thought it was. It's, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. It's so situational, I guess I'd say. There he goes. There he takes off. So, it actually restores quite a bit of health at the beginning of the game. Sorry, and gives you a decent little amount of AP back. So, when you don't have much to work with to begin with, it's actually kind of decent. And if you're trying to do specific things like that, like I was doing there, where I was trying to steal with Ree, and I didn't have much else to do with my characters. Granted, I did have blind on the main character, and maybe that wasn't the best person to have it on. I think Tipo would have been a better choice. That way the main character could have just healed every round and then snoozed whenever he needed, and then Tipo could be on blind duty. But that's hindsight. So, all right. Yep. So here we're back to Runaway. The bats in here actually do have an enemy skill called Gloom, and I will have a video, or at least splice in some footage of how to learn that at the beginning of the game. And in all honesty, so it's kind of a neat skill, because there's really only two places to learn it, and one is here right at the very beginning of the game, and then there's also the second point is at the very end of the game. So again, very interesting skill. I guess I'll probably discuss it a little more when we actually learn it. It can be kind of difficult, but we'll get her done. So here obviously the blood trail comes to an end, so we need to figure out how to hunt him down. And if I remember right, the first time I played this game, that was tough. I think it took me quite a while to remember, or to figure out where to go, because I actually did quite a bit of exploration in this cave, and then obviously the area that you go to progress the story, I had already looked at and kind of thought it was a dead end. So, and here it is right up here. So I didn't think to come back here, but this is where you go. So you just step through there, and Tipo initiates this dialogue. And basically, the idea is to jump into the water and float down to float down to this cave. Here I spliced out some stuff, I guess. I'm not sure what I was doing. I frequently am playing other games, so every once in a while I'll have to make a cut here and there because I basically just stopped and kind of wasn't playing. So rather than let the game footage roll, I usually try to cut out any of that stuff where I'm just standing around not doing anything. So here's pretty. It's like, hey, T-Ball, good, he's kind of complimenting me. He's like, hey, that was a good idea, but what would you have done if if there wasn't this cave here, basically? What would have happened? I guess they would have just, jumped in the river and been swept all the way down the mountain. Alright, so one last random fight before the new, and here I took out a ton of cuts in this fight because this fight took a long time. I had some really bad luck with just not being able to steal and not landing the blind skill on this guy. So you'll see here there's a cut. Obviously, look at my character's health is dropped down a ton. So I mean I think I cut out a good, I bet 5 minutes out of this fight just because I couldn't get stuff to land. And here's where I finally stole. And that was actually one of my bigger goals. And obviously we already discussed it a bit on the power food. I like to have those because they are very, very uncommon up until a certain point in the game, and that's many hours after this. So I like to try to get what I can when I can get it in here. But here's another cut of again, I was actually just trying to land blind on this guy before I continued on with the fight. And I tried using these croc tears to restore poison. I think I talked about that actually a little bit in the first video. And they say that they have a chance to restore status, but it didn't seem to actually work in combat. I've definitely used them and they have worked outside of combat, but I couldn't get it to stick in combat. And so here I finally got blind to land, so I took another cut of that, actually landing, and then this is kind of where I decide to work on finishing the fights. I've got my main objectives were to steal, to land blind, and then to kill off the main character and Ree. So basically only have T-Pole survive. And in all honesty, I probably could have made this at least a little bit easier, because this is pretty risky. Basically just trying to finish with only T-Pole left. One thing to know about the new, though, he does use a very, very devastating attack when he's really low on health called Jolt. And that just nukes everybody for a decent amount of damage. But he only has enough AP to cast it once. So there you go. He's trying to cast it again, and he doesn't have enough AP. So that can be. It's a really good thing, because it'll waste a turn basically, because it's trying to cast a spell that it doesn't have AP for, and that actually will happen throughout the game. A lot of enemies will just try to cast spells because that's what their AI is, basically program them to do, except they don't have the AP to do it, so it'll just basically cancel out. So, again, very, very helpful, for you. But here, pretty soon, here's when I'm gonna end up. I think I kill off Ree just because I didn't want to make him level any. And obviously the main character as well. I just one of my goals was to keep and I guess I don't have to discuss it a whole lot, but one of the goals of this particular playthrough was actually to not gain any experience on Ree at all. I wanted him as low as I could possibly be. You know, it's probably, I can give a little spoiler, but the Ree and Teepo are actually not going to be in the party forever. So, you know, again, I like to keep Ree as low as I can because he does end up, you know, rejoining quite a bit later in the story, and will gain. Actually, he gets a. You know, I was trying to kill off. I was trying to kill him off, and then his guts popped, and he was back up. So, oh well. So, you know, in this particular playthrough, anyway, there's, you know, I tried to keep my characters again fairly low, and at least until I got the access to the masters. One actually, there's a way to kind of go through the game, or one of the challenges is basically a low level challenge. Basically, is either as low as possible or, you know, lowest average. I guess you can kind of do whatever you want. I'm not as big into the low level challenges as some people are, but in certain circumstances there are, you know, reasons why I kind of follow those playthroughs, and this will be there. This is you know, obviously one of them. The reason just because I wanted to gain levels while I had access to a master. So, you know, that won't be the case for the whole game, but in certain areas, I definitely do limit my leveling, if not halt my leveling entirely. So, all right. So I finally beat the new, and I think you get an extra scene if you check that the cave back there. If you don't check the cave, you miss. There's a little dialogue here coming up with Bunyan that you'll miss. Which, you know, whatever. It's I don't know if it's not really that important or not, but yeah, it's kind of interesting this whole scenario. And here we have Bunyan. How does it feel to do some real work for shit? I want to say this scene right here. I think this I don't even know if this even plays if you don't check that cave. Or maybe it's this part right here. Maybe it's this last part with restopping Bunyan. I don't remember now. It's been a while since I, you know, tried both ways. So, yeah, kind of interesting. So basically, you know, Bunyan sent us up here, and not 100% sure on his motives, but obviously he wanted us to take care, or at least Ree, anyways, to take care of the new. Now, granted, he sent him up there alone, and he kind of made the other two help him out to, you know, to make sure that Ree would try to face the new alone, because Ree says he's stronger alone, and again, you know, that'll the reasoning for that, or some more light will be shed on that later on in the story. But you know, and then obviously after the new is taken care of, Ree's like, hey, you know, you knew that the new was just hunting for, you know, its cubs or whatever, and Bunyan basically says, well, yeah, but you know, if you would have known that, would that have stopped you? So, I mean, yeah, I don't know, kind of an interesting little back and forth dialogue, but you know, I don't know what else to really take out of it or take from it, other than you know, the whole reasonings for Bunyan. Obviously, if it was you know, if it was taken or eaten livestock, was what it sounded like. You know, and then on top of it, the cubs were dead already. So that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, maybe the key to the whole situation was that, yeah, like, you know, it's understandable. It's an animal hunting for food, but at the same time, you know, it was probably hunting more than it needed to because its cubs were dead anyway. So, you know, yeah. I think, and then, you know, whether or not Bunyan sent the boys up there to kind of try to change their ways, or, you know, to change the way, I guess, the villagers saw them, you know, because obviously the villagers know that these guys are just, I don't know, kind of bad kids that are just stealing, you know. And so, you know, you don't really know if Bunyan. I always like to think that Bunyan sent them up here to try to kind of change their ways, you know, maybe set them on a good path. And here I finally jumped down into the storage area and grabbed the healing herb. In all honesty, that probably would have been a lot more useful when I actually needed it there at on Mount Gloss. But oh well, such is life. Alright, what do we got here? Alright, so another boss goblin and a goblin. And, you know, so I'm still obviously running away from battles. I still didn't have actually grabbed the master yet, but we will be getting that very, very soon. But that boss goblin and the goblin, I did mention it in the previous video, but the boss goblin's got a waistcloth if you steal from it. And the goblin itself has a bent sword, and I would recommend swiping at least... Boy, I can't remember if you get one, like out of a treasure chest or anything. I would say have 3. I would say have 3 in your inventory soon. You know, maybe not necessarily have to get it right this minute, but I would have 3. But anyways, you know what? That is going to bring this video to a close. So, like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do, but I hope you're enjoying the videos and join me for more. Alright, thanks very much for watching.